I remember watching a friend of mine go through a massive career setback recently, the kind of failure that would make most people spiral into panic or depression for weeks. When the news dropped, the room went silent. Everyone was walking on eggshells around him, waiting for the explosion of the breakdown. But he just sat there, blinked a couple of times, and calmly said, "Okay, well, that's that." 10 minutes later, he was asking what we should order for lunch. It was baffling to watch. To everyone else, it looked like total apathy, bordering on coldness. We were all wondering, did he not hear what just happened? Does he even care? It felt like he was missing the emotional gravity of this situation entirely. But as I watched him navigate the fallout over the next few days, I realized something. He wasn't suppressing his emotions, and he wasn't in denial. He just genuinely wasn't vibrating at the same frequency of chaos as the rest of us. While we were stressed for him, he was already moving on, functioning perfectly. It turns out, this wasn't a lack of feeling. It was a signature of a very specific, often misunderstood temperament, the phlegmatic. And while it looks like indifference from the outside, inside, it is a completely different battle. Today, we are diving deep into that core stability, which is, in many ways, the ultimate adaptive advantage. We're exploring the psychological architecture for found calm, the personality type that really embodies reliability and patience, and the unique positive emotional state that drives it. Our mission is to understand why stability is not weakness, but a powerful, often overlooked operating system.
That's a perfect framing for this deep dive. We're taking that observable personality style, the phlegmatic temperament, which aligns really well with the steadiness or S style in a lot of popular behavioral models.
Right, the DISC model.
Exactly. And we're connecting it directly to the underlying neurobiology of feeling good. And that state is called low arousal positive affect, or LAPA for short.
LAPA.
And we really want to demonstrate to you that the state it's far from passive. It's actually a highly powerful adaptive system that provides some pretty unique advantages, especially where it comes to maximizing resilience and, excelling in high-pressure work environments.
So it's not just about being calm. It's about what that calm does for you.
Precisely. We'll look at the internal strengths, but we're also going to provide some concrete strategies, both for them and for those who work alongside them, to overcome some of the inherent challenges, especially around motivation and change, to achieve true holistic well-being.
Okay, let's unpack this foundational identity first. When we talk about the steadiness or S-style personality, what are we really describing? I mean, to me, these are the individuals who are fundamentally the bedrock of any group.
That's a great way to put it. They are like the human equivalent of a system's internal gyroscope.
Gyroscope, I like that. They're just maintaining equilibrium when everything else is trying to, shake things up.
Exactly. They are defined first and foremost by patience, reliability, and sincerity. A critical behavioral marker is their almost automatic inclination to support and assist others.
They just do naturally.
They do. They're profoundly collaborative, and they frequently prioritize the needs of their colleagues, the team, over their own immediate needs or even their ambitions. And this just makes them natural stabilizers in any environment, corporate or social.
So they're not the ones steering the ship from the front. That might be, a dominance or D style.
Right. The D style is all about results and control.
And they aren't the ones generating all the excitement and energy, which would be the influence or I style.
Correct. The I style is motivated by social recognition, enthusiasm. The S style, though, they're the essential support structure. They're the reliable foundation. The descriptors you see again and again are dependable, authentic, deeply supportive, empathetic.
And excellent listeners. That one always comes up.
Always. And that context is so crucial for understanding them. If you place them in that broader behavioral framework, you see how unique their orientation is. As you said, D style wants results. I style wants recognition. The S style is motivated by something different. Sincerity and safety.
Sincerity and safety.
They want the environment to be reliable, predictable, and harmonious. You can even contrast them with the conscientiousness or C style.
Who also likes order, right?
They do. They seek accuracy. But the C style often gets there through a kind of critical, detached analysis. The S style gets to accuracy through empathetic support and patient application. Their stability is infused with this human warmth.
And this desire for dependability, it translates directly into their demand for consistency, doesn't it? This is basically the mechanism they use to reduce their own anxiety.
Absolutely. The S style thrives on a stable, predictable routine. For them, change isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it must be introduced gradually.
Slowly.
And crucially, it has to come with a clear, rational explanation. They need to understand why the change is necessary and how the new process will eventually restore or, maybe even improve the stability they crave.
So if you just rush an S-style person or throw some arbitrary, unplanned shift at them,
it doesn't just annoy them. You're functionally destabilizing their core operating environment. They can't mentally model or prepare for the new conditions. And since their value is so tied to being reliable and thorough, that sudden change threatens their ability to deliver on that value.
so they need time to process, to integrate, to adjust their internal system.
Exactly. And that inherent need for consistency dictates their very methodical approach to tasks. They have this patient thoughtfulness that, to a high-energy personality like a D or I style, it might look slow.
It could be mistaken for hesitation or procrastination.
It could, but that pace is what ensures exceptional thoroughness and accuracy. They are inherently methodical. The research really highlights their capability to complete routine and repetitive tasks to an incredibly high standard. Their quality control is naturally high because they prioritize getting it absolutely right over just getting it done fast or, flashily.
So if we were to break down their motivation center, what's at the core?
Stability and security, they're paramount. Because those elements reduce anxiety and allow for that deep, sustained focus they're so good at, they're highly motivated by clear objectives and detailed processes.
They need the map.
They need to know exactly what is expected and the precise pathway to deliver it. No ambiguity.
I think we need to emphasize that point on appreciation, too. It's often misunderstood. They're not chasing the spotlight or public acclaim, are they?
Not at all. They're motivated by genuine appreciation and recognition for their consistent, sustained efforts. It's the quiet acknowledgement that their dependability, their contribution is seen and valued.
It's like, we see you, we rely on you.
Yes. And things like giving them advanced warning about change or ensuring they have the support and resources they need, that's almost like a currency for them. It gives them the stability and time to adjust and perform at their best.
Okay, so conversely, let's look at the demotivators, because this is the mirror image of that stability preference, right?
It is. Their core fear, and the sources are very clear on this, is sudden, unpredictable change. That instantly generates instability and anxiety. It disrupts the routine and predictability they need to function optimally.
And this fear can look like resistance?
It can manifest as resistance, yeah. But it's not coming from a place of malice. It's a psychological need to protect that reliable environment they've built.
And beyond just sudden change in process, we see this strong pattern of avoidance when it comes to social conflict.
Yes, they are profoundly demotivated by conflict and confrontation, which can be a problem. It can lead to complex issues festering within a team because they will avoid the direct, difficult conversations needed to address problems head-on.
They value harmony over confrontation, sometimes to a fault.
To a fault, absolutely. And this avoidance also extends to a very pronounced reluctance to take risks. Preserving stability is great, but this hesitation can and often does lead to missed opportunities for growth or innovation.
For themselves and for the team.
For both. They often struggle with assertiveness, especially in group settings where you've got more vocal personalities dominating the conversation. They just really dislike high-pressure situations or unrealistic deadlines that force them to compromise their methodical thoroughness.
That balancing act between accuracy and speed must be a huge source of tension for them.
It's a major one. And this entire profile, the deep desire for consistency, the calm demeanor, the reliable support, this fear of high-pressure chaos, it all naturally translates into a very specific physiological and emotional state.
Right. This isn't just about how they act.
No. It's about their distinct internal operating system, which is optimized for what we call low arousal positive affect.
Okay, so if the S style is the behavioral manifestation, let's dive into the science of LAPA, low arousal positive affect, and really understand the underlying engine. For anyone new to this concept, maybe we should quickly set the stage for how emotional states are, structured in psychology today.
Of course. The most widely accepted approach is something called the circumplex model of affect. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea is simple. It proposes that our emotional experience can be mapped onto a circle, basically, that's defined by two primary dimensions.
Okay, 2 dimensions. What are they?
The first is valence. This is just a scale from positive feelings to negative feelings, good to bad.
Simple enough?
The second is arousal or activation. This ranges from low physiological stimulation, think being very calm, to high physiological stimulation, like being really excited or panicked. So every emotion is basically a coordinate on this map.
Got it. So we are most familiar with the high energy states. If you have positive valence, a good feeling, and high arousal, you're in what's called the high arousal positive affect quadrant, or HAPA.
Exactly. Think about feeling excited, enthusiastic, elated, joyful. These states are associated with significant physiological activation. Your adrenaline is flowing, heart rate is up, you feel energized.
And fundamentally, APC signals a motivation to approach a goal, right? It's the engine of quick action.
It's the engine. Now, LAPA, by stark contrast, lives in that same positive valence quadrant. It feels good, but it sits firmly at the low end of the arousal scale.
This is where we find the quiet emotions.
The profound yet quiet emotions. Things like calm, relaxed, at ease, serene, or content. These are deeply positive experiences, but they involve very low physiological stimulation. If we were to measure, say, your nervous system activity, your skin response, or heart rate variability, LAPA would show a significantly lower measure of arousal compared to HAPA.
So LAP is literally a physically and mentally quiet, positive state.
It is, and this distinction is so crucial, and it sheds a lot of light on why LAPA has been so misunderstood for so long. The research notes that it was often hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. How so?
Well, particularly in Western cultures, we tend to fetishize high arousal, the thrill of the chase, boundless energy, excitement. That's what we value. And because LAPA is so close to emotional neutrality on that arousal axis, it doesn't demand immediate attention. It doesn't spur you to immediate action. So researchers just historically overlooked it in favor of states that facilitate goal pursuit.
That cultural bias is huge, isn't it? If an emotion doesn't make you want to jump up and conquer the world, it was sort of dismissed as just being passive or neutral.
It was. But LAPA states, like calm or serenity, they might involve fewer thoughts that lead to immediate action, but their valence is profoundly positive. And often, it's more predictive of long-term life satisfaction than HAPA is.
That's fascinating. So we chase excitement, but contentment is what actually predicts happiness.
In many cases, yes. Globally, when social scientists ask people to define happiness, they're often more likely to include LAPA concepts like contentment and peace than HAPA concepts like excitement. We also see some interesting cultural nuances. Studies in Germany, for instance, found that when participants were asked to just generate a positive state with no other instruction, they reported LAPA calmness more frequently than HAPA.
So that really drives home that LPA isn't just less intense happiness, it's a qualitatively different form of happiness. So if HAPA is about that future movement toward a goal, that motivational rush, what is LPA functionally doing for us? What are its subtypes?
That's the key question. If HAPA is about approach motivation moving forward, LAPA often involves the resolution of previous movement, or, as we'll discuss, just the absence of a need to move at all. Researchers have categorized LAPA into 3 distinct subtypes based on how a need or a threat has been successfully resolved.
Okay, let's examine those 3 states because I think this gives LPA a much more functional definition than just being chill.
It does. First, we have calm. This is the quintessential LAA state. It's the most frequently used item for LAPA measurement across all the psychological studies. It represents a steady state of neither approach nor avoidance.
It's just there.
You're simply present, stable, and still. This is the baseline state of the phlegmatic individual, a system that is just perfectly balanced.
That sounds exactly like my friend in the opening story. Just sitting there, not mobilized toward the chaos, which would be HAPA, nor fleeing the disaster, which would be like high arousal negative affect.
Right, anxiety, fear.
He was just at ease within the situation.
Precisely. The second subtype is satisfaction or contentment. This is the positive feeling you get after you have successfully approached and attained something you wanted or needed. It's the pleasant feeling of a fulfilled desire.
So you worked hard, you got the thing, and now your system settles into this state of contented rest.
Exactly. And this is highly motivational for S-styles because they are motivated by the completion of clear objectives. They love that feeling of a job well and truly done.
And the third type, which feels very powerful, is relief.
Relief is a big one. It involves having successfully avoided or stopped something unwanted, like the alleviation of pain or a threat. Now, it might sound negative on the surface because it starts with a negative stimulus.
Right, something bad was about to happen.
But the feeling of successful avoidance is a profoundly positive, low arousal state. We see this subtype studied a lot in clinical psychology. That positive affect spike, that sense of calm that follows the successful avoidance of a threat, whether it's physical or social, is a core LAPA experience.
This whole categorization, it really clarifies why LAPA feels so important but is so hard to define in our motivation-driven society. It leads directly to what the research calls emotional zero, which sounds like a really critical concept.
That concept of emotional zero, or you could call it optimal homeostasis, is key. The core observation is that a huge component of feeling good involves moments of no approach and no avoidance.
Wanting nothing.
It's the profound low arousal goodness of wanting nothing, needing nothing, or fixing nothing in that specific moment. In physiological terms, this is a state where the body's energy demands are minimal, the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system is dominant, and the cognitive load is reduced.
It requires a certain meta-emotional awareness to even recognize the value of that state, especially when we're constantly being told we should be optimizing, achieving, or hustling.
Absolutely. Recognizing this low arousal contentment is essential for a robust emotion regulation. LAPA is the stable, balanced resting state. It's the hedonic set point to which our system returns after it's been dynamically adjusting to environmental demands. Think of it like a perfectly calibrated thermostat. It's not hot or cold. It's just a general, stable feeling of contentment. Yeah. It's the silent strength that allows for system recovery and sustained accuracy. And that, as we'll see, is its greatest asset.
So if LAP is this optimal resting state, the next logical question is, does this stability actually translate into better, more reliable performance in the real world? When we connect the steadiness personality profile back to this state of LAPA, we start to see how powerful this, the seemingly low-key temperament actually is.
Especially in environments that demand consistency, accuracy, and emotional regulation. The stabilizing force that S-style individuals provide in a team is immense. They are anchors. Because they prioritize thoroughness and process over speed and flair, they ensure that nothing gets overlooked. They maintain this realistic, grounded focus and consistently consider the facts and existing protocols before they make critical decisions.
So they provide the grounded context when other people, maybe motivated by HEPA excitement or HANA anxiety, are reacting emotionally or impulsively.
You've got it. It makes perfect sense then that in terms of work interactions, LAPA is linked directly to feelings of support and safety. When workers describe positive incidents with their leaders, they often use LAP words like calm or reliable, more frequently than HEPA words like exciting.
That's so interesting. So the feeling of support and trust and calm confidence from a leader or a colleague is actually more impactful for psychological safety than high energy enthusiasm.
It often is. And that psychological safety is directly measurable in terms of resilience and even physical health. LAPA plays a unique and protective role here. Research shows that LAPA uniquely explains variance in life satisfaction, depression, anxiety, stress, and mindfulness, even after you account for the effects of HEPA.
So it's not just a piece of the puzzle. It's providing a distinct benefit.
A distinct protective benefit for mental health. It acts as a buffer against emotional extremes.
We mentioned the physiological protection earlier, but I want to unpack that a bit more. How does LAPA physically buffer stress?
Okay, so when subjects in studies were faced with acute pain or a sudden stressor, LAPA was found to specifically buffer the sympathetic or action-oriented response.
The fight or flight system.
Right. Conversely, HEPA actually amplified the stress response, keeping the system elevated for longer. LAPA facilitates a much quicker return to baseline homeostasis. It provides a physical respite, a system reset during and immediately following stressful events.
Which means the phlegmatic individual doesn't burn out as quickly under chronic stress.
Exactly. Their default resting state is restorative, not activated. And that is a massive long-term advantage in sustained resilience.
This internal stability then translates directly into some profound cognitive advantages. And this is where the assumption that, high energy equals high performance is really severely challenged. We often associate high energy with being sharp, but the data tells a different story. It's about accuracy over speed.
This is where it gets really interesting, especially for people in roles that need both speed and accuracy. LAPA words, so emotions related to calm and contentment, were associated with faster response times on lexical decision tasks compared to HEPA words.
Wait, faster? That's totally counterintuitive.
It is, but the findings suggest that the reduced mental noise and the lower cognitive load that are inherent to LAPA allow for quicker, cleaner information processing. There's just less internal interference, so the pathway from stimulus to response is more streamlined.
So the phlegmatic isn't slow, they're just thoroughly fast, if that makes sense. They aren't slowed down by emotional drag. And this speed advantage is paired with superior accuracy, correct?
Absolutely. The advantage extends significantly to memory and decision-making accuracy. LAPA was associated with better working memory and long-term memory recall in photographic tasks compared to HIPAA.
Wow.
And what's more, the type of memory was different. When people were asked to recall complex physics lessons, the LAPA recollections had a greater recall of the overall context. They understood the big picture, the foundational concepts. The HIPAA recollections, on the other hand, emphasized more superficial details.
So big picture versus little details.
Yes, and most critically, LAPA was associated with fewer false recognitions of words read aloud in a classic memory test that's designed to induce errors. This calmness leads to superior discriminative memory and just fewer mistakes.
That makes the phlegmatic temperament arguably the ideal witness or investigator after a high-stakes incident. A highly energized witness, operating from HAPA or HANA, might have very detailed but possibly distorted memories because of the emotional intensity.
Whereas the LAPA-driven person remains grounded in context and accuracy, and they avoid false inputs. This distinction is also really clear in applied performance. In simulated driving tasks, a setting that requires sustained, stable control EPA images were associated with significantly better steering performance.
Continuous, measured control.
Exactly. Now, HAPA did lead to better braking performance, which is a rapid, reactive action. But LAPA maintains the steady, accurate course. The stable, low-arousal state favors continuous, controlled action over sudden reactive bursts, and that translates to methodical, sustained quality in the workplace.
We also see some intriguing trends across age and gender, which suggests LAPA is maybe both learned and inherently protective.
It does. We see that the use of LAPA words like grateful and proud gradually increases with age. In fact, it surpasses the use of HAPA words around age 35.
It's like a form of emotional wisdom, a natural shift toward contentment as your life priorities stabilize.
It seems to be. Older adults report higher levels of baseline LAPA, suggesting their default emotional set point is just closer to contentment. And interestingly, they're faster at detecting both HAPA and LA images compared to younger adults who only detected HAPA faster. This points to a greater capacity for balanced emotional recognition and regulation in later life. They're leveraging that accumulated calm.
We also have to acknowledge the critical gender nuances here. The data shows that women, on average, experience less baseline LAPA than men.
And this is not biological. It's often mediated by socioeconomic factors, specifically greater domestic responsibilities, emotional labor, and having children. This lack of restorative time directly impacts their ability to reach that optimal homeostasis.
And on the flip side, health benefits.
Right. The health benefits appeared specific for men in certain studies. LAPA at work predicted higher levels of good cholesterol and lower triglycerides, a correlation that wasn't observed in women. This just indicates that the adaptive function and the physiological protective mechanism of LAPA might be expressed differently depending on the social and biological context.
Okay, so given all these inherent strengths, consistency, supportiveness, exceptional memory accuracy, stability under duress, the S-style personality is really ideally suited for some specific professional roles, isn't it? Where chaos needs to be managed and accuracy is just non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Careers where patience, meticulous detail orientation, and sustained support are crucial are a perfect fit. This includes sensitive healthcare roles like nursing or patient care, where consistency and calm are vital.
I can see that.
Education, particularly teaching and counseling, where patient instruction is key. Human resources, which requires empathy and process adherence. Administrative support, which thrives on methodical organization. Customer service and technical support. Their methodical, patient approach makes them invaluable assets in troubleshooting and supportive roles. They act as the stable, reliable interface for people in distress or systems that require complex maintenance.
We've established that the S-style individual is grounded in LAPA, which is a huge advantage. But now we have to address the internal battle we talked about in the intro, that struggle with drive and proactive engagement. The very quality that makes them so resilient and accurate that low arousal also presents their greatest challenges.
Right, particularly when it comes to initiating action and managing rapid change. We need to focus on strategies for these individuals to overcome feelings of inadequacy, lack of motivation, and really foster deeper emotional engagement and self-acceptance.
So where did the pitfalls come from?
They stem precisely from the low arousal nature of their optimal state. LAPA, while it's fantastic for focus and calm, is fundamentally not associated with drive or immediate action. When your system feels perfectly content and stable, there is no inherent biological signal to move, to seek, or to fix.
The system is happy where it is.
It is, and research confirms this. LAPA relates to less task engagement and less proactive behavior compared to HAPA. The HAPA-driven person has a system signaling go, seek, achieve. The LAPA-driven person has a system signaling you are fine, stay right here.
And for the phlegmatic individual, this translates into a really high risk of avoidance. We've talked about their resistance to rapid change and conflict, but this also extends to a reluctance to take necessary risks.
Which can be personally crippling. It can lead to stagnation, missed growth opportunities in careers that demand innovation or quick shifts, and the individual might start to perceive themselves as lazy or unambitious.
When really they're just operating from an emotional system that prioritizes preservation over pursuit.
Exactly, and this often leads to what you could call the inadequacy loop. The source material shows that workaholism, a state of unrelenting high arousal drive, was related to lower levels of LAPA.
That's a critical finding.
It is. Relentless, HAPA-fueled drive can actually erode your natural state of contentment. When a naturally calm person feels pressured by cultural norms or they're internalizing these external expectations to be constantly on and frantic, they push themselves into a high arousal state that is physiologically unsustainable, and it's corrosive to their core stability. They end up feeling inadequate for not matching the energy of their colleagues.
So how do we counteract that tendency toward low engagement? How do we foster what the sources call industry?
The key is that it's about deliberate engagement in active work, often through meticulous planning and adherence to structure, rather than waiting for some spontaneous motivation to strike. It's about building external structures that compel action.
So you have to leverage their natural thoroughness.
You do. And interestingly, despite LAPA being a relaxing state, it was associated with increased learning and an online training course, while HAPA was associated with decreased learning.
Wow, so the calm people actually learn more.
We did, which suggests that when they do engage in active learning or complex tasks, their calm, focused state maximizes retention, context understanding, and cognitive efficiency. The key is the engagement structure. The goal isn't to force them to become high energy, but to structure tasks in a way that engages their natural stability and methodical approach for sustained periods.
So for anyone managing or working alongside an S style, fostering this deeper engagement requires some very specific supportive communication strategies. It's all about reducing their core fear and stability.
Absolutely. When you're communicating change or difficult expectations, you have to approach the conversation with a gentle, reassuring tone. Security and consistency must be the emphasized pillars of the message. Active listening is key, showing genuine interest in their thoughts and concerns without rushing them.
And crucially, you have to give them time to process before responding. Demanding an instant answer just creates performance anxiety.
You have to. And when you're explaining expectations, offer clear, detailed instructions and pathways to avoid any ambiguity. You want to frame the action not as a risk, but as a necessary methodical step toward an established, secure outcome.
So instead of saying, we need you to urgently spearhead this new, risky project, you might say, what?
You would say something like, we need your meticulous attention and stability to design the safest, most reliable process for this new initiative. We need your thoroughness to help us mitigate risk.
That's brilliant. It acknowledges their value while speaking directly to their core motivational drivers, security and accuracy.
Precisely. And for management support, providing clear expectations, clear tasks, clear goals, that's foundational for giving them that sense of stability and direction they need. And regularly offering reassurance about their role and contributions is essential for building their confidence and reducing their anxiety about necessary changes.
And when change is necessary, it has to be introduced gradually. Allow them time to mentally adjust and feel comfortable with the new processes. You're reinforcing the value of their steadiness rather than punishing them for a lack of high-energy output.
We can also offer them specific self-structuring strategies to address that drive deficit. Since HAPA drives spontaneous action, LAPA individuals have to rely on systems. A highly effective technique is using something called implementation intentions, or if-then planning.
If-then planning.
You pre-commit to a specific action when a specific situation arises. For example, if meeting ends, then I will immediately write down the 3 follow-up steps. This structure automates the action. It bypasses the need for a spontaneous, high-arousal drive to get started.
That plays right into their methodical nature. It turns action into a process instead of a leap of faith.
It does. And furthermore, they must actively leverage the link between LAPA and their environment for self-care. LAPA is consistently higher at home and during leisure activities, especially those involving nature walking, cycling, just spending time outdoors.
So taking a walk in the park is not a luxury for them, it's maintenance.
It is essential maintenance. The research indicates that weeks with higher LAPA were associated with significantly less negative non-work interference. The calmness acts as a robust buffer against work-related anxieties spilling over into their personal life. Actively encouraging nature breaks or choosing low arousal, restorative leisure is crucial for maintaining their positive set point and their sustained stability.
So ultimately, the path to maximizing the S-style's potential is recognizing that their success is not tied to the frenetic energy of other people. If they aren't motivated by the thrill of the chase, they have to find that goal-oriented action through structures that leverage their thoroughness, their patience, and their need for security.
Their unique adaptive advantage is in the long game. Their path to success is not through reckless risk, but through meticulous step-by-step progress, backed by a clear affirmation of their foundational value to the system. And self-acceptance for them means embracing the power of their calm, not feeling compelled to become someone who operates in a constant state of high arousal anxiety.
Yeah.
It is the steady, consistent application of reliable effort that wins.
And that brings us full circle. We started with a story of a friend who seemed cold or apathetic in the face of disaster, but what we've seen is that he was simply operating in his optimal, most resilient state. The phlegmatic isn't cold or uncaring. They operate in a powerful restorative state of low arousal positive affect.
LAPA has profound, empirically validated benefits for health, stability, and cognitive accuracy. While high-energy emotions spur that approach motivation, LAPA uniquely predicts lower levels of anxiety and stress and is absolutely key to a holistic emotional life and interpersonal harmony. Recognizing and intentionally promoting this state, particularly through supportive environments and valuing consistency over chaotic speed, is essential for every individual to understand. The pursuit of high-energy excitement may be culturally favored and lauded in the short term, but true sustainable happiness and enduring adaptive function might be found in recognizing the profound power and stabilizing role of simply needing nothing and wanting nothing, the silent strength of calm contentment.